Hey everybody, Simone here with Bulletproof Business Growth, as always with some ideas and insights, what to pay attention to when you're getting ready to rapidly scale your business. Look, this is really important, especially when you have inexperienced teams, younger teams, lower level teams, and on the other hand, when you have employees who've been around for a long time and who've been doing the same thing over and over again and who've gotten used to only doing what they're doing the same way over and over and over because they've always done it that way doesn't mean it's the best way to do it. And what happens when this occurs is a lot of times people kind of go to sleep. They stop thinking. They just kind of do what they do without evaluating, without planning, without observing if it's really working, and then we get super mediocre results. So what my goal today is to break down some really basic project management skills that help people to start thinking more strategic at a higher level, consider the big picture so that they can make better decisions and drive better results, of course. So a big piece of that is to wake them up out of their daily grind and have them actually look at their situation, at what they're doing with kind of a new perspective, with curiosity. So what if everybody started looking at their projects like project leaders, like project managers, and not just at their tasks from a perspective of this is this tiny little thing that I'm doing, completely disconnected from the rest of everything else, from the rest of the business. So one of the questions that I like to ask our clients to have that same level of thinking is, instead of doing everything the same way they always do it at the level that the company is at now, start thinking about how would you do this same task, the same workflow, if you had a company 10 times the size your company is right now, because you'd have to think about this very differently. So what we really want to get into is, instead of, a lot of people think SOPs are what's going to fix things, because that means everybody has a set workflow and then it's going to go perfectly. But what that means is, when you have a very stringent, a very set way of doing things, it's a routine, and routines are great in certain ways. But the weak point of a routine is when one piece of a routine gets disrupted, everything else falls apart because it's all relying on each other. So what we want to do instead is we want to start practicing a certain way of doing things. When you practice something, it's a much more holistic experience, and it comes from a much more big picture thinking. So part of that is to teach your team members to start thinking in a more big picture way, where they're looking at what they're doing every single day, and they're looking how it fits into the overall plan, into the overall vision and mission, and the overall results, the overall outcome that everybody is working on. So this relies partly on you teaching them and sharing with them what the big picture is, of course. So whether it's you at the top, or you share this with your leaders and your leaders share that with the rest of the team, however, which way it goes, your big picture, your vision has to be communicated with every single employee in the company if you want them to be more strategic, more self-sustaining, and working at a higher level. So let's say you did this. You defined your vision, you got it professionally crafted. It's this beautiful 8 to 10 page document that's all branded and exactly represents who you are and where you're going. Let's say you did all this. So of course the next step is for every single employee in your company to understand, hey, what does that mean to me? How do I fit into this whole thing? So when we get this kind of now goes from like 30,000 foot view to 10,000, and then it keeps dropping down till we're at a place where, okay, everybody translates now what the big picture is to what's happening today, because that's how we get things done, right? So this is where we get into a daily practice using project management skills that really help upgrade everybody's daily workflow. So first step is everybody, every single employee, every single day starts the day not just by doing, but by evaluating the daily task status. So whatever it is that they're working on, they should look at the entire project and look at how does my task that I'm working on fit into the entire project. So we have to know first, where are we? Are we within keeping, in alignment with the original plan? Of course, that means you must have made a plan before, so everybody's working off a plan, because if you haven't done that, we're in trouble. So everybody has their plan, so every single day they're going to evaluate task status and find out, it's like, are we on task? Are we on schedule? Are we ahead of schedule, or are we behind? And so once we evaluate that, once they evaluate that, the next question is, what now? Because depending on where they are, if they're on track, great, keep going, right? If they are ahead of schedule, that means, okay, we're going to finish this ahead of schedule. That means all the other things that are coming after that will need to be moved up, so we don't have a gap, a hole, that we don't lose productivity. So that has to be communicated to the next level up so that decisions can be made that take care of all that stuff, right? So everybody has to understand that piece. Of course, if you are behind, if they're behind, that's a bigger problem, because now we have to figure out why. And this is where you want to teach them to have really clear problem-solving skills and figure out, like, why are we behind? Is it because we didn't prepare and project and materials weren't here when we needed them? Is it because the customer changed something? Is it because something externally happened that we couldn't control? But no matter what, you want them to start getting really resourceful, so that, one, they start noticing that they're getting behind before they're getting behind, because that's the time when they can actually do something about it. And the more you have them think ahead like that, and they can communicate and actually either solve it themselves, call in the troops, as in work with the team to fix it, or ask for help if they can't, doesn't matter, but the sooner they can uncover that there's challenges, the quicker you can get ahead of it, right? So evaluate task status, and they want to evaluate task status not just once. They want to evaluate that at the beginning of the day, in the middle of the day, and at the end of the day, and make adjustments. So that's number one. Number two is, well, if they get to, okay, we're actually behind or something is missing, so they have to identify current challenges or issues so that we can do something about it. And here's the thing, when there's a problem, the only way you can do something about it, or they can do something about it, is when they find the source. And that's the way we are able to fix problems in a much longer term than just taking care of the symptom right now. So they have to find the source, which means they have to step back for a second and actually stop and become curious and be very honest with themselves and discover, where's the weakest link here that's breaking the chain. So we have to find the source of the problem so we can come up with the solution. So this is something you have to teach them is, hey, if we can't find the source, we can't come up with a solution. We can't just slap Band-Aids on, whatever little hole is coming up, because that's going to cause bigger problems down the line. And people who aren't used to thinking that way are more likely to just get the duct tape out, which, is going to cause a lot of problems. So of course, the longer you wait to review, the longer they wait to review, the more this will delay workflow. So teaching your employees to uncover problems early and to be honest about it and to take initiative and to ask for help if necessary Well, that's the thing that will actually enable you to solve the problem and get ahead of it before it's too late. So you want to, I love this acronym that Deepak Chopra came up with. It's, the word stop. And the way he thinks about it is stop stands for S, stop, T, think, O, observe, and P, proceed with caution. So when they notice something, they want to actually stop and go through that way of thinking to identify, hey, what's actually going on? What are we going to do about it? Let's take a breath. Let's regroup and continue in a better way. So that's the second piece. The third step is, of course, always reviewing tools. So the tools and the usage, super important, because, hey, if you get to the job site and your materials and your tools aren't what they need to be, well, what are you going to do about that, right? So you have to understand that before you even get there. So they have to review tools and the usage of the tool before they even leave site. So are they top notch? Is there anything else that we need? Are our tools actually speeding us up, or are they slowing us down? So if something isn't right, they're not the right level, whatever it is, and it doesn't matter what industry you're in, this can always be applied. So making sure that we repair what we need, that we maintain, that we remove, or that we add what we need to make sure that we can actually be most effective. So everybody has to pay attention to this stuff before they get working. And then the fourth step is, of course, communication. When there's an issue, the first question in their head should be, who else needs to know about this? Who else needs this information? Because as we all know, if there's a problem over here, it's a ripple effect. It's going to affect not just one person. So the first question is, who else needs to get this information that our chain of events here broke down? So when you think about, this could be something that's just within the team, or it could be that the business owner needs to be updated because there's something higher level that needs to happen, that peers need to know about it, or that the client needs to be updated. And here's the really powerful thing. What we found over time is that when there is an honest and transparent way of updating the client with any challenges that come up, that they don't find out about it when it's already caused a lot of delays, they're a lot more appreciative of that, and they're a lot more likely to be amenable to whatever it takes to fix it than if they find out later when suddenly their expectations are not being met. So we use this form that our clients use with their teams that updates them every single week with everything that's happening. So the business owners is always 100% in the know what's going on, where they're winning, where the challenges are, where people need help. And we use that same principle to update the client. It's like, hey, every week, if you updated your client every single week, how much better would that go than if the client finds out they're waiting, they're expecting things are done, and things are not done, and then they get really unhappy. So making sure that the communication is spot on about how the workflow is going. And when there's any communication to be had, this starts with you. Is like the first thing is speak plainly. I love that acronym KISS. Keep it simple, sweetheart. Say what you need so everybody understands 100% what we're talking about. So this is how you have to speak to your teams, and you have to teach them to do that with everybody around them so everybody's on the same page. And nobody can assume anything. If you make assumptions or guesses, this is not going well. So we have to keep clear of that. And then, of course, teach them to ask the right questions. If you want better answers, you have to ask better questions. So they have to, again, a lot of times it's not the question around the problem. It's the question is going to be around the source of the problem, so we can actually fix it, not just for now, but for all times, right? So everything in this goes to people being more prepared, being proactive, and functioning with the big picture, so that they're not looking just at the tiny little thing that's within their scope and within their control, but that they make the connection how that fits with everything else. So that way we get to step 5, which is now we can actually honestly adjust deadlines. So because we know that not everything will work perfectly, so we have to make sure that we adjust for anything that got missed. And then we have to adjust the plan. So not just adjust for the day, but we have to adjust the plan so everything else will fall in line after that. So, and you have to ask yourself, when frequently your deadlines are missed, are you setting your deadlines kind of hopeful because that would be great if it worked out that way? Or are you being realistic? And one thing we've definitely found is when you give your clients a range, it's like, hey, best case scenario will be done then. And it could be taking as long as that, but you give them a range. Well, if you finish on the front end, they're going to be super happy about it. But if you finish at the back end of it, or you communicate at least all the way through and let them know, they're going to be a whole lot less upset than if they're expecting you're going to be done the 1st of December and really you're going to start rolling in the 1st of January. So expectations are the root of all conflict. That's the same with your team as it is with your customer. So teaching these very basic project management skills to every single one of your employees will really help you to have a team that's much more prepared, that's proactive, that's forward thinking, and that can take care of situations themselves instead of constantly calling you all day long when, fires are burning, mistakes are being made, and you're the one who's always the cleanup crew. So honesty really rules in this, and you have to allow your employees to be transparent and honest, so that they will actually surface problems when they happen. They won't just try to fix it or not fix it and just hope that nobody notices. So I hope this helps. Make sure that you teach your team these 5 steps, to always think through these 5 steps every single day, so that they have a practice of being a project manager and not just somebody who executes without thought all day long. Have a fabulous week, and I will see you next time.